Imagine a steel monster, more than 540 feet long, a giant of the American Navy, packed with enough manganese ore to forge the weapons of a world war. Imagine 306 men, sailors, officers, and passengers sailing through the calm waters of the Atlantic. One moment, they are on the map, a powerful symbol of American might. The next, they are gone. Not just sunk, vanished. No SOS call, no wreckage, no oil slicks, not a single body. Nothing. It's as if a giant hand reached down from the heavens and simply plucked the ship from the ocean, erasing it from existence. This isn't a fictional sea tale. This is the true, unsolved, and bone-chilling story of the USS Cyclops, and its disappearance remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. Hello and welcome back to TSF History. If you love diving deep into the most fascinating and mysterious stories from the past, you've come to the right place. We uncover the secrets that time has tried to forget. Before we venture into the heart of the Atlantic's deadliest mystery, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way you won't miss a single one of our historical explorations. All right. Grab your life vests, you're going to need them. Let's set sail on the final doomed voyage of the USS Cyclops. To understand the disappearance, we first need to understand the ship. The USS Cyclops wasn't just any vessel. She was a technological marvel of her time. Launched in 1910, she was a Proteus-class collier, a massive ship designed for one primary purpose, to carry coal to fuel the U.S. Navy's fleets all around the world. Picture this. She was 542 feet long, weighing over 19,000 tons. She was a true behemoth, a floating giant that represented America's industrial and naval power on the eve of World War I. The Cyclops was a workhorse. She served faithfully along the east coast of the United States and in the Caribbean. When the United States entered the Great War in 1917, her role became even more critical. She was retrofitted to support American and Allied forces, transporting troops, supplies, and vital raw materials across the treacherous U-boat-infested Atlantic. She was equipped with one of the first radio transmitters of the era, a piece of technology that should have made it impossible for her to vanish without a word. But the story of the Cyclops is the story of the impossible. Her final mission began in January 1918. The world was deep in the throes of the First World War, and steel was the bloodline of the war machine. To make that steel, you needed manganese, a critical hardening agent. The Cyclops was tasked with a vital mission: sail to Brazil, load up with 10,800 long tons of manganese ore, and bring it back to Baltimore to be forged into guns and ships for the war effort. At the helm of this giant was a man who was a mystery in himself, Captain George W. Worley. And this is where our story takes its first dark turn, because Captain Worley was not the man he appeared to be. He was born Johann Friedrich Wickmann in Germany. He had entered the United States, changed his name, and somehow worked his way up to the command of a massive U.S. Navy vessel during a war against his own homeland. Worley was universally despised by his crew. Reports from those who served under him painted a picture of a tyrannical, eccentric, and often abusive commander. He was known to walk the decks in a long coat and a bowler hat, sometimes with a dog at his side, berating his men for the smallest infractions. He was accused of being a drunk, of favoring other German-born officers, and of creating an atmosphere of pure misery and fear aboard the ship.
Tensions were so high that during the voyage to Brazil, several crew members and officers were placed under arrest by Worley for various, often petty reasons. The ship was a powder keg of resentment and distrust, all centered on its strange German-born captain. Keep this in mind, because it becomes a crucial element in the theories of what happened next. The Cyclops arrived in Rio de Janeiro and loaded its heavy, dusty cargo of manganese ore. On February 16, 1918, it began its long journey home to Baltimore. The ship was overloaded, heavy in the water, but the mission was critical. A few days into the voyage, an unexpected stop was made. On March 3rd, the Cyclops pulled into the port of Barbados. This stop was not on the official itinerary. Captain Worley reported that the ship's starboard engine had a cracked cylinder and needed repairs. He claimed the ship couldn't reach its destination without this work. However, subsequent investigations found no record of the engine being damaged. In fact, the ship's own engineering officer reported that the engine was in perfect working order. Why did Worley lie? What was the real reason for the unscheduled stop? This question has never been answered. It's another layer of strangeness in an already unsettling story. While in Barbados, the American consul there, Brockhost Livingston, met with Captain Worley. Livingston would later report that he found the captain to be utterly repulsive and believed he was a damned German. He noted Worley's pro-German sentiments and the climate of fear he had instilled aboard the ship. According to Livingston, Worley spent his time in Barbados buying up as many provisions as he could, stocking the ship far beyond what was needed for the short trip to Baltimore. It was another bizarre action from a captain who was acting more like a rogue agent than a U.S. Navy commander. On March 4, 1918, the USS Cyclops, fully provisioned and with its mysterious captain in charge, steamed out of Barbados. Its estimated arrival date in Baltimore was March 13th. The ship was last sighted by the molasses tanker Amicole near the coast of Virginia on March 9th. The captain of the Amicole noted that the Cyclops looked like it was struggling, listing to one side, but it was still sailing. After that sighting, the USS Cyclops sailed over the horizon and into legend.
March 13th came and went. No Cyclops. March 14th, nothing. At first, the Navy wasn't overly concerned. Delays happened. Weather could slow a ship down. But as the days turned into a week and then two, a cold dread began to set in. The Navy launched one of the largest sea searches in its history. Ships and planes scoured the entire route from Barbados to Baltimore. They searched for any sign, a piece of wreckage, an oil slick, a single life preserver. They found absolutely nothing. The radio rooms had heard nothing, no SOS, no distress call. The ship, with its 306 souls and its 10,800 tons of war-critical cargo, had vanished without a whisper. It was, as President Woodrow Wilson would later say, the most baffling case in the annals of the Navy. The disappearance was a gut punch to the American public. In the middle of a world war, one of their biggest ships had been swallowed by the sea, and no one knew how or why. With no evidence and no wreckage, all that was left were theories, and the theories ranged from the logical and terrifying to the strange and supernatural. Let's start with the most obvious suspect at the time: enemy action. The United States was at war with Germany. The Atlantic was a hunting ground for German U-boats. The immediate assumption was that the Cyclops had been torpedoed and sunk by a German submarine. It made perfect sense. A swift, brutal attack could explain the lack of an SOS call. But there was a problem with this theory, a big one. After the war, American investigators scoured German naval records.
The Germans were meticulous record keepers. They logged every single ship they sank. There was no record, anywhere, of a U-boat attacking or sinking the USS Cyclops. The Germans had no idea what happened to it either. This leads us to the second theory, one that revolves around the ship's hated commander. Was Captain Worley, born Johann Wickmann, a German spy? Did he conspire with the enemy? Did he hand the ship over to the Germans or intentionally scuttle it? This theory gained traction because of his strange behavior in Barbados and the deep hatred his crew had for him. Perhaps he steered the ship into a trap? Perhaps his pro-German officers helped him. But again, where's the proof? If he had handed the ship over, it would have been a massive propaganda victory for Germany. They would have paraded the captured American vessel, but there was only silence from the German side. Could the crew have had enough of Worley's tyranny? This is the mutiny theory. Did the crew, pushed to the breaking point, finally snap? Did they murder the captain and his loyal officers and try to make a run for it, perhaps seeking refuge in a neutral country? It's a compelling, dramatic idea. A successful mutiny could explain the radio silence. But where did they go? A 542-foot ship isn't easy to hide. And what happened to the 306 people on board? Did they all agree to this plan? It seems highly unlikely that not a single person would ever surface again to tell the tale. Then we have the theories that focus not on human action, but on the ship and the sea themselves. The first is structural failure. The Cyclops had two sister ships, the USS Proteus and the USS Nereus. Decades later, during World War II, both of these ships would also vanish without a trace in the very same area of the Atlantic while carrying similar heavy ore cargoes. This is a chilling coincidence that points to a possible design flaw in this class of ship. The ships were known to have long, flexible hulls. Some engineers theorized that with a heavy, dense cargo like manganese ore, the ship could have experienced catastrophic structural failure. In heavy seas, the hull could have literally snapped in two, plunging the ship and its crew to the bottom of the ocean in less than a minute. This would happen so fast that there would be no time for an SOS. It's a plausible and terrifying explanation. This ties into another theory, the cargo itself. The 10,800 tons of manganese ore was a dangerous load. If the ore got wet, it could liquefy, turning into a thick, unstable slurry. If the ship encountered rough seas and began to roll, this newly liquefied cargo could suddenly shift all to one side. A sudden, massive weight shift of thousands of tons would be unstoppable. The ship would capsize almost instantly, rolling over and sinking so quickly that it would be like a stone dropping to the bottom of the ocean. This cargo liquefaction theory is a strong contender for what happened, as it explains the speed and silence of the disappearance. Of course, we cannot ignore the raw power of the ocean. Could the USS Cyclops have been the victim of a rogue wave? These are not tsunamis, but massive, impossibly tall waves that can form in the open ocean, sometimes reaching heights of over 100 feet. A wave of that size would be like a moving wall of water. It could crash down on a ship like the Cyclops, breaking its back or flipping it over in an instant. Such an event would be sudden, violent, and utterly unsurvivable. There would be no time for a distress call. The ship would be gone in the blink of an eye. And finally, we come to the theory that has cemented the USS Cyclops in the realm of modern myth. The area where the ship disappeared is the heart of what would later become known as the Bermuda Triangle. The Cyclops is often cited as one of the triangle's first and most famous victims. This is the region of the Atlantic where ships and planes have allegedly disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Proponents of this theory suggest that unknown, perhaps paranormal or even extraterrestrial forces were at play. While there's no scientific evidence to support such claims, the sheer completeness of the Cyclops' disappearance, the total lack of any wreckage, makes it a poster child for the eerie legend of the Bermuda Triangle. For many, the idea of a mysterious vortex or an unexplainable phenomenon is the only thing that makes sense of a mystery this profound. So what are we left with? A ship that sailed off the map, a tyrannical captain with a hidden past, a crew on the verge of rebellion, a dangerous cargo in a potentially flawed vessel, and a final resting place in the most mysterious stretch of ocean on the planet. For over a century, searchers and explorers have hoped to find the wreck of the USS Cyclops. Deep-sea expeditions have scoured the ocean floor, hoping for a sonar blip that could finally solve the mystery. But the Atlantic keeps its secrets well. The wreck has never been found. The final moments of the 306 souls aboard the USS Cyclops are not just a statistic, they are a permanent, chilling question mark on the map of naval history. Lost, but never forgotten. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops is a puzzle with too many pieces missing. Was it a German plot? A violent mutiny? A catastrophic failure of the ship? A freak act of nature? Or something else entirely? What do you believe happened to this doomed vessel? Let us know your theory in the comments section below. We read every single one and love hearing your perspectives. If this journey into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries fascinated you, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the past from TSF History. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.